Reacher Season 3 lost some of its footing and momentum in its latter half, especially with its sluggish Reacher Season 3 Episode 7. Fortunately, the majority if not all of the Season 3 finale was immersive, intense, and almost incredibly satisfying. Reacher Season 3 Episode 8, Unfinished Business, concludes the exciting but occasionally sluggish third season in style on Prime Video. While I appreciated Duffy's no-nonsense attitude in Season 3, her passive aggressiveness and one-dimensionality make her my vote for the worst Reacher sidekick of the series thus far. Zachary Beck, who turns out to be more of a victim than a true Reacher Season 3 villain, teams up with Reacher, Duffy, and Villanueva to save his likable but weak son. It's nice to see Duffy and Reacher working together for the first time, as many of their previous interactions have been emotionally charged and combative. After weeks of agonizing waiting, Reacher and Polly finally fight like men, with an amazing and inventive combat sequence. Polly's underutilization and prolonged sizzling on the back burner is Reacher Season 3's worst tragedy. Thankfully, Polly and Reacher's battle in the finale results in some of the season's greatest moments right away. One of the highlights of Reacher Season 3 must be when he breaks free from a chain-link noose and approaches Polly with a garden rake. In the meantime, Neagley is also deftly added as an undercover waitress in the season finale, which improves on the original conclusion of Lee Child's Persuader novel. Toward the beginning of the episode, poor Villanueva had no real chance against one of Quinn's guards, but he managed to survive the season. Back in the middle of the Polly vs. Reacher action, one of the best scenes in Reacher Season 3 must be when Reacher escapes a chain-link noose and approaches Polly with a garden rake. In the end, Reacher's brains outweighed Polly's physical strength, but Reacher still had to do a double take to ensure that the beast of Polly was given up. The underwater aspects of Polly and Reacher's confrontation added an exciting layer to the action sequence and were the ideal way to seemingly send Polly to his death. When he re-emerged to put an end to it once and for all in his security hut with a vicious machine gun, it felt like Reacher had finally met his match. Beck had Quinn right where he wanted him, but an unfortunate stroke of fate left him compromised, dying in a sort of sacrificial way and rekindling his relationship with his son at the least possible moment. Quinn is seriously frightening when he shoots and kills Beck with a dozen bullets, which should have set up a more righteous death for him in the final moments of Reacher Season 3. It would have been much more fulfilling if Reacher had actually held Quinn accountable for what he did to Lieutenant Dominique Cole, but Neagley's addition with a dead hand grenade was satisfying and only made her character more cool. In his last moments on Earth, his resemblance to Dominique appears to overcome Quinn's forgetfulness. Nevertheless, if Quinn had spoken after recalling Lieutenant Cole, it would have been more convincing. He chose to accept his fate by being shot in the face with a shotgun point blank. Quinn was certainly a vicious antagonist, but his psychopathic rage made him genuinely reprehensible and terrifying, almost to the extent of being a parody of a villain on television. Quinn was certainly a vicious antagonist, but his psychopathic rage made him genuinely reprehensible and terrifying, almost to the extent of being a parody of a villain on television. One of the most interesting features about villains is knowing their motivations and their twisted perspectives on people and the world. Quinn was devoid of any subtlety in feeling. He was simply an unstable businessman and a mercilessly savage killer. Even though Polly was one-dimensional, she had the opportunity to see that Quinn wasn't worth fighting for, but she never did. Reacher gives Richard some excellent advice before he departs, summarizing their personal but not too close relationship. Duffy's speech about relationships was mostly superfluous, but it was funny to see Reacher on the receiving end of a gentle letdown. Reacher jetting out down the winding roads of coastal Maine on a Harley was a nice touch, and Shine by Mondo Cosmo ended the season on a high note. Ultimately, the Reacher Season 3 finale got the job done, even though it played it rather safe.